old enough.
They're not old enough.
Hey, welcome back.
Whoa. You did it again? This is unbelievable.
I do it every time.
I've got kids. My oldest is, upper elementary school, and I hang out with a lot of young adults. But it's definitely
they miss the lingo of the middle schoolers.
Miss some of the middle school and high school in college kid lingo right now. Brian was trying to teach me.
I wasn't trying to teach you.
Because he's an expert in it, is what he was saying.
I'm not an expert. I don't know what the words mean. I don't know what it means.
Susan and I had a conversation recently.
Okay.
About language, and I made the argument that Gen Z has more of a made-up language than any generation before. And she's like, no, every generation. I'm like, every generation has words that we say.
Yeah.
Right? We had a ton of words that we said that means things.
Usually ours were like already real words that we repurposed.
Yeah. And there's always going to be examples of weird things. But Gen Z made up an entire new language. I feel like there's words that didn't exist that now exist and phrases. So I'm mad props to them.
Yeah.
Mad props. That's probably something from my generation. Right?
But also real words.
At least you put them together. There's something that makes sense there. Yeah. So I would just say, way to go, Gen Z. Yep. You all creative.
Way to go.
Get outside the box. I'm here for you.
Did the boomers take that one? Way to go. Sorry. All right. Hey, episode 4 in our 6-part series on movement DNA, the DNA required to see movement. So if you're jumping in now, you might want to go back and listen to the other episodes on Jesus is Lord, missional, incarnational impulse, and disciple making. I feel like I'm holding this mic like I'm about to rock out.
Yeah, go for it.
So
you ready? Let's go, man. You could do that well. Go ahead.
No, I can't. I have to do it in the moment. It has to be like a passionate. Yeah.
Okay. So
go
ahead.
Can't do it.
Go now.
This one's a little different. This week we're focusing. It's not so much like, okay, disciple making is the core engine. That's what you said last week. Mm-hmm. Disciple making is the core engine. Or Jesus is Lord is that culture that I need to continually return to Jesus in everything, in every way. Mm-hmm. My eyes are set on him. I want to return to that. Or what was the other one? Missional, incarnational. It's an understanding, right, of we are sent, we are on mission. And then incarnational is how we do that when we get there, to really understand the context. Liminality and communitas is a little different. It's more, it would be described, I think Alan describes it as the environment where formation happens. Mm. So it's not so much a do as it is what is true around us.
Yeah.
Liminality can be a task, which we'll get into that. It's more like I can put myself in liminal spaces, choose to be in places. So let's do this. Before we really get around liminality-communitas, let's talk about the fact that these are actual words.
Which you ended our last podcast by declaring that.
It was a little teaser.
And we recorded this obviously weeks between each other.
I have to tell you, I did this mDNA survey that could be sent out to anybody anywhere, and just take a strengths assessment around how active are these in your life. It's 50 questions. I thought it was wildly helpful.
And you made this
because I made it.
Yeah. Man, it sounds amazing.
And then I sent a survey out to quote unquote friends.
Did you send that to me?
No.
Okay, that's cool.
Because I knew you wouldn't do it.
I would do that.
I got some really sharp feedback. It was an anonymous survey though.
Ooh.
So
that's just opening up.
In hindsight, I was like, I should have put some names down so I could call these friends back and be like, hey, what's going on?
That's like a anonymous comment section on YouTube videos.
But one of the comments was, I feel like y'all made up some words. And I just wanted to go, man, I wish I knew who this was so I could go, these are actual sociological terms that you can look up. And we have redeemed them for the sake of this journey with Jesus that we're on. But we did not make these words up.
Yeah. And even if we did, I'm okay with that nowadays.
Do you see the tie-in that we're doing with the intro right now?
Amazing. Yes, it's so. I used in some ways I get so annoyed by Christians making up words, right? But any place, sometimes you got to make up words because the old words have baggage and meaning, and we got to make up some new words. Like you're talking about, last week, most of the titles that we have for people in like church settings don't, like in the words themselves, they're not verbs. They're not like, they don't promote action or doing. So, small group leader to, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I guess leader is verb, but like there's a containment, there's a reception, and the disciple maker is out there doing, so that identity is key. There are words that make sense, and then there are words that trip us up. And then sometimes we got to find another one that's outside of those two. But that's not even what we're talking about today, because both of these
are real words.
All
right. So the first one, what is liminality? So liminality
sounds made up.
Would be, don't make me go on a rant again. This is what we would describe as a threshold space. It's an in-between moment.
Threshold.
Where you've left something that's old and you haven't yet arrived at the new. You're in the middle and it's really hard. So a biblical image would be the people of Israel when they've left Egypt,
the desert,
and they haven't arrived at the promised land. So the desert,
for many decades,
is a liminal space.
That's decades of liminality.
40 years.
That sucks.
A whole generation died off.
Yeah, because they weren't faithful in their liminality.
That's right.
Ooh.
Yeah, let that teach you something. Jesus in the desert, like he is pushed into the desert by the Spirit. It's a liminal space. He's like been affirmed as the Son of God. Like the Spirit descended. This is my Son whom I love, in whom I'm well pleased. All this identity, the Father God spoke over Jesus. Then the Spirit pushes him into the wilderness. And what does the enemy tempt him with first? Are you really the Son of God?
Yeah, identity first.
So he's got to live in this space of, I haven't fully stepped into my ministry. I got to deal with this, like, am I embracing this identity? Yeah. The disciples, they left their nets, and Jesus said, drop everything, come follow me. And it says I will use the King James, they forsook everything and followeth after him. But not yet filled with the Spirit, right? So like they're living in this, like, we're learning how to bend our life to your rhythms, but we haven't like been fully empowered by the Spirit to go and do. So liminal spaces are just I'm leaving something behind and I'm entering into a hard space. And I'm going to learn all about it. And I haven't fully arrived where I want, but it's like, I know I've been sent. And we like to avoid that space, but that's where we learn.
It's so good. I mean, that space, in every area of life. I bet you we stop and say, okay, as you're hearing Brian talk, identify a liminal time in your life. And I do think there are lots of examples where we can say that's where I was formed more than anything else. There's probably other examples to be like, I really missed that because my heart was filled with bitterness. My heart was filled with, like resentment, or I missed that opportunity. That's real. And that generation of Israelites, they missed it. Like that opportunity in that liminal space to press into God and form identity, and they missed it. So I don't know if we talk about that enough, that there are spaces. God is so good and he's so gracious. And even if we missed it, that doesn't mean it's over. But I don't know. I kind of want to ask you a one that pops up in your mind, because I got one that's popping up in my mind.
Go ahead and tell yours.
Yeah. And it's okay if you don't, because sometimes these are super personal. And sometimes like, I just think of, I was in a space where I was engaging in disciple-making movement principles and actions in our city. And I knew that I had to kind of step away from what I was doing, vocationally, also just recreational. In a sense, I had to take my family, and I had to go all in. And then in underground, we were starting underground at that time too, right? And I had disciple-making streams of stuff happening in pockets that weren't my own. I was catalyzing them. I was part of it. But we had to go and actually leave an environment that was great for us. We had like a house church setting that was great. We had to leave it in obedience. And we were kind of for a couple years floating, right? In our disciple making, like we were actively trying to identify where guys were. We're walking our neighborhood. We're even little things getting started here or there. But it wasn't really until COVID and when my kids started some school and stuff like that we had a group of people and it was like, but that was huge. We had an opportunity to go all in for a season, and it was hard. Faithfully pressing into God. It was good. Like I felt like God did so much in that season of pressing into him, learning how to pray for people who don't know Jesus, even doing house church with our family. Part of it was COVID. It allowed us to, be some of that space. But that was just the first one that popped in my mind of a recent example of what, a liminal space.
I'm going to come back to that and communicate what communitas is, and then use your example with my example. I just gave you the table of contents.
Oh, okay.
So where does liminality come from? I left that part out. As a sociologist studying African tribes, we talked about this on here, that are in like way deeper rural settings in the bush. And essentially the little boys at some point have to become men. But until this point, as they were studying these people, the men would take these boys out into the bush like 3 days and leave them there and go, you have to make it back. When they make it back, they move into the men's part of the camp. They have become something. The liminal space is the in-between where they're like going, we are out here with lions and we have to survive and make it back.
It's the montage of all the movies.
Yeah, we'll get there. So the first liminal space is like really that came to mind was like, same sort of story 15 years ago, going, I don't think I've ever embraced actual disciple making. What does it mean to like move into my neighborhood and get to know people, and like all the just clumsy ways of trying to meet people and go, hi, my name is Brian. What's your name? And like how I didn't know how to do so much of that stuff. Like I was an extroverted person with really safe Christian people inside of a building. And it's weird for me to like go, I am not really skilled in this. And I had to like learn how to go, how are we going to make disciples in the everyday stuff of life? But I would say the most recent, in-depth liminal space would have been the same one where y'all were leaving yours and we were leaving ours. And we're in a liminal space together, actually, around forming this larger new family called the Underground, which leads me to the explanation around communitas, which is it's not just community, but it's bonded community forged in a shared task. How good is that? Communitas is what you get when you walk through liminality together. And so we're both in these spaces where we're like, we've left what we've known, leading in these large organizations for years and years to form a new way, a new paradigm. Not that we were the first, but like forming it in our city together and going, we got together and we're wrestling out ideas, and we have moments where it's like, we got to go all in on this. And it's like, well, what about this? And okay, I see that. But like, if we don't do this other thing, both of those things will be missed. And sharing our stories, weeping together, being vulnerable and exposed together. And then at the end of it, it's like, these are people that, I'd give my life for. I'm maybe more Sue's than you, but
totally
for sure.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that a lot. Yeah. Oh man. And I think in our intro video, we talked about those kind of obvious communitas examples. Right. We see it in sports. We see it in the military, right? All these great stories. We see it in every Disney movie, every journey that's taken.
It's the hero's journey.
Yeah. You do all that together, and and it's real. Like we know that touches the heart of humanity, because we know when we're in it, we're in the hard things together. The bond is formed. Yeah. The reality is we also don't want to be in those spaces.
Right.
Like our heart longs for it and retracts it at the same time, because we don't want pain. Right. We don't want discomfort. Yet we realize fruit comes from pushing ourselves and the pain and discomfort. I think it's interesting, the communitas piece. I love the story and how you brought that together masterfully. That's an experienced veteran move podcaster right there. Like being in it by ourselves is probably a great and it's a great recipe for a a liminal space to not produce the fruit that it could.
Yeah.
If we're just going to go through it by ourselves. And there's always in some ways, times of desert, times of isolation that God will form us in that. I'm not saying that's not true. That's actually part of the journey. But even in our loneliness and isolation, we have to lean on others. And in that, invite people into that journey with us, or find others that are going through something similar. And we just know, I guess I'm speaking to the heart. Humans know this. You hear this. This is what we are. And then we try to create this programmatically, even in the church. We try to fabricate or create this from scratch. But we take the mission out. It's so easy to take the mission out because we so want the people, but we want to avoid the hurt. So we'll try to programize towards it, but really, we're not really going 2 feet in. Yeah, we're just trying to get a little, purpose
it's
activity.
Like a team building exercise. It's that didn't really make us a team,
dude. That is a great analogy on that. Yeah, I mean, we've been to those. Who here in their work environments like to do team exercises? Except if it's a ropes course. I love doing a ropes course, but I'm one of the only ones.
But it's because you like to do a ropes course, not because you're doing it together.
100%. Yeah. And I do think shared activity, you can get flavors of that, but you're exactly right. Forced family fun. Yeah. And it does feel like programmatically, if we're working from a top down paradigm, it's hey, we got to create communitas. It's really hard to do because you fabricate
mission trips.
Yeah.
It's a manufactured environment to experience liminality, and it is a taste. But how many of those people come back and they're still a family that's on mission together in a space? It happens.
Yeah. And we're not speaking against that, although we are recognizing the limitations of it. You're exactly right. It's not it's a flavor, a taste of it. It's real. Yeah. But it's
and sometimes it does bring people back, and they're like, I want to go on mission with some people here locally. And it's praise God, that was the desire and the design of this. But when you have people from disconnected lives.
That's good. You could have just gone through it, but you're good.
They can't continue to do that liminal space together because of our culture fighting against us, because of all the other demands on our life. So there's you can get tastes of it, but just to tie this back to some earlier episodes before we get into some practices, this is again, it's the environment that all of these other things can thrive in. Jesus is Lord, calls us into spaces of discomfort. Hey, what is Jesus calling you to do? Leave everything, forsake all, and follow me. Jesus is inviting you to rise and walk. This is a liminal space. Never walked before. It's can you step into this? Sorry, can you step in? I'm trying to find some other examples. But Jesus is, he's sending the 72.
That's so dumb. It's so funny. Okay, sorry.
He's sending the 72 into the next towns and villages, right? It's this is a liminal space. Or will you begin to practice what we've been engaging? It's uncomfortable. The missional incarnational impulse, as you're hearing our stories, we stepped into neighborhoods. You stepped into a jail context. We can name all of the microchurches in Kansas City and go, well, we could tell you how they stepped into their new context. And it's often unfamiliar. Even when it's familiar, it is unfamiliar because you're stepping in with some new intentionality.
Yeah, that's really good. And it can be your same neighborhood you've been in for 20 years, and for the first time ever, you're intentionally stepping into it, and it's brand new, and it's scary, and it's a liminal space.
And how do you honor the story that was there while recognizing we want to get it to a new story? Disciple making growth comes through practice, and that practice usually stretches us. And so here we're talking about, again, every time we choose to allow God to lead us into a liminal space together, communitas is what we get as a result. It's why we talk about, if you make disciples, you're going to do liminality, therefore you will get community. But if you try to just do community, you may not ever get communitas because you didn't do anything really hard. Yeah. And you may not even make disciples.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's good. I totally agree.
Uh-oh.
No. It's not a but. I 100% agree. It's funny to try to, it's funny to try to, how do you manufacture that? How do you programize that? I think that's where we sometimes get in trouble, is we try to programize that from a top down mentality. And I'm not saying that's bad. I think it's good to try to get towards that, but it's hard to manufacture liminality and or communitas. It's hard to manufacture. It comes from obedience. It comes from stepping in to where God is calling you. And like, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, we've been a part of a lot of things, missional communities. You guys remember that phrase? That was a programmatic like strategy of trying to create groups around a cause or a mission. And that's beautiful. What we often found is it didn't replicate disciple making. But there's good kingdom stuff happening. But in my experience with it, because of our deep loneliness as Americans, we would gravitate towards a lesser form of community instead of community that flows from together purpose and mission. We clung to the lowest hanging fruit, the lowest place we could grasp, but let's be together and be friends and do things together, which is good. We need godly friends. But we were created for more than that. And it's like, boldly go, where no man is going. Boldly go where God's calling you, and you will find that the depth of friendship and depth of community. And I don't know where you're at, listener, or where you're at in your world hearing us talk about that. Because I bet you a lot of us are lonely. You talk to a bunch of Americans, I guarantee you the vast majority of them feel that loneliness in some way. Let's dig into that space a little bit more. Maybe loneliness is a level of liminal space. Like, what's God doing in that in-between time where I used to be super connected? There are stages of life that have liminality. Have you noticed that? Like, from maybe right after you graduate, like, I have this degree and I've been preparing my whole life and I'm not quite where I want to be, where I got to have this in-between job or whatever, or I've got to get this job to pay the bills before I get to live into my purpose. Like, that is such a real thing. What you laughing at?
I'm like, parenting feels like a 25-year liminal space. Like, I'm not yet where we've launched them and I get my life back. I'm just kidding. I love the time with my kids.
It's the best. So I'm rambling to say, amen and amen. It's so important. It's so good, but these aren't just concepts. This is deep into our DNA of who we are as humans. And when Jesus invites us to make disciples and go with him, it's like, it like beckons us. It's the same feeling we get when we watch Lord of the Rings and they're about to go on mission, or I'm a bit, Moana. I got my Hawaii hat on, my Ohana hat, but like, just that we long to.
She took a chicken with her.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was mostly isolated.
No, that's what I was thinking.
No, but she got Maui with her.
Yeah, that's right.
The pagan god.
I hope that they sponsor us after this.
Disney.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, we long for that, and it's easy to settle for less. But it's when Jesus calls us to join him and to follow him, he's touching on that. Like, he's that little like kindling fire that's in our heart to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Like, he's like, yes, do this. And we settle for less because it's scary, and we settle for less because of all the things in this world that distract us. But that it's there. It's there. Step into it. It's scary, but it's there.
Yeah. Here's the language from our document that how we contextualize it. We are the church, a network of extended spiritual families who are reconciling communities on mission to bring beauty, justice, and good news to every context. I love the way we've used that language. I didn't write that one, and I'm super grateful for the way Rob phrased that one. But I want to give you, I don't think that we've done a whole lot in the last couple of episodes about, hey, here's a practice. But I just want to offer it to especially our friends in the city. Hopefully some of you listen. But just around how to embrace liminality and not wait on it to happen to you, but to choose to step into it. Like, to look at it and go, okay, I'm going to actively move toward this because of how I think it will end up forming me and a community. Because I know that the last number I heard from Bree, it's like we have disciple making leaders that are engaging. I think it was like 70 unique contexts in our city. It was so exciting to me. They haven't seen this full microchurch emerge yet, but they're like, these are my people, this is my place, and I'm working.
You mean in addition to microchurch settings that are there? Yeah, so 70 additional places that we, okay, interesting.
So apart from the 105 microchurches, 70 additional unique contexts where disciple makers said, this is my people, this is my place.
And those are signed on disciple. It's probably even just scratching the surface of, amen. That's so
those
cool.
are the ones that we have reports back for.
Yeah. So cool.
So this is what I'm going to offer. I'm sort of making this up as I go, by the way. So offer ideas to, we might make a tool after favorite. This.
It feels very liminal.
Yeah. We're going to have such communitas after this. Step 1 is enter risk together. So if you're alone as a disciple maker, I guess step 1 is consider who else might you have with you? Who's a teammate? Who's somebody that you talk to about that space you're engaging? And hey, as microchurches, you can do this same exercise, by the way. You just already have your teammates. And step 1 is, how do we enter risk together? So as part of the exercise would be like, sit down, write out like, what could we do that would move us into discomfort? What's like and sometimes it may be activity based at first. You're thinking like, you're just trying something.
Let's go do a service project. Let's go. Something.
If you're engaging a context and you have a teammate, it's like, what makes the most sense in this context? What would be good news? What could we step into together that would move us beyond what we've been doing? And this risky decision might lead to some sort of breakthrough. Step 2 would be to debrief and tell some stories, like what worked. Like, let's not just critique this thing to death. Let's go, hey, I had 4 conversations. That's awesome. Like, we've never had that many conversations happen in this prayer walk. Maybe that's like your liminal thing that you're going to, like, we're going to prayer walk 3 times this week. The 3rd time you had 4 conversations. You ended all of them awkwardly every time, and it just fell apart. You know what I mean? But like, celebrate that you had 4 conversations, but also go.
I feel like that was a very personal example.
Yeah. What happened at the end that sort of made those conversations devolve? So both of those, as you debrief, like, what can we celebrate? Tell stories about. What can we also go, well, probably shouldn't do that again. Like, and then like redo it. How do we in this like just make that a continual practice of like, we're not going to wait on the Lord. Like Jesus gave the disciples in the upper room, go into all the world, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth. Well, it took till Acts 8 and persecution to actually send them. You know what I mean? Like, don't wait till Acts 8. Like, dream.
Yeah, that's good.
Invite those more apostolic voices in your midst to go like, what could we do? And when you go, oh, that feels hard, that's probably it. You know what I mean? Like, that one thing is probably the thing where you're like, I don't want to do that. Go do that.
That's good.
So that's just an idea to help you think through, how do we actively step into liminality? And then I would say also frame it in this way. What is the reward we get because we do this?
Look at that.
And the reward is communitas. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah. Is it going to stretch you beyond what you want to do? Yes. But the reward is actually 2 things. You get to join Jesus, which is the greatest reward. And then you get this community bonding and this depth of community that is beyond just like, cool, we had pizza together. Like there's a depth to that. So,
man,
anything else?
That was good. I feel I just released Brian just to savagely just going. That was awesome. Yeah. I don't think I have any. I think this was helpful, even just thinking through, I think, these concepts for people, just to identify when was the last time I felt even uncomfortable, stretched. I needed to rely on something outside of myself. Maybe you're in a season right now where you feel so stretched and you're like, I just long for some stability for God to show up in the desert. I would say don't waste that space. if you're there. And I would say if you're in the first example, where's God moving that I can press into it? And I don't think it's always like we have to manufacture liminality.
Yeah.
But we need to be ready to join Jesus and wherever he takes us. And often that'll be into very liminal spaces. So, man, good stuff, dude. Well done, Brian Johnson.
Cool, man. Back at you. We'll be back next week doing apostolic environments.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.